Ready?
Yeah,
There we go.
all right. Good.
Trying to learn.
One day at a time, man, one day at a time. How are you? Good to see you. Are you ready? Almost done.
All right. It is 6 o'clock, so I'm going to get started. Are we ready?
How close do we need
Oh.
to be to the microphones?
Not super close. I mean, I'm about this far and it echoes through. She can catch you. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to get started because we're at 6 o'clock. So welcome to this Meet the Candidates Forum with our candidates for the MSID 51 School Board. I'm Whitney Henkin. I'm the Town of Cumberland Director of Communications. We have 4 candidates here with us tonight, and they're running for 2 seats on the MSID 51 School Board. Ballots are now available. They became available on Monday for the June 11th election. So we hope tonight you get the opportunity to really kind of get to know these potential board members. Before they go through and introduce themselves, I'm going to give you a quick overview of tonight's format. This evening is intended for learning more about each candidate. I do want to be clear, this is not a debate. We will not be taking questions. We ask candidates to be respectful of each other with no interruptions or interjections. Candidates, of course, can stay after the event tonight and answer questions if that's in their time frame, but we won't be doing them during the forum. Candidates will each be given 2 minutes for opening remarks on why they're running for office. Then each candidate will be asked 5 prepared questions and will have 2 minutes to respond. The candidates have not seen the questions in advance. Finally, each candidate will have 2 minutes to make closing remarks. A timer is displayed very prominently up there for everyone who's in the building, and it's clear so the candidates can see it and track how much time they have. Of course, you may all finish your sentence and your thought, but we do ask that candidates are respectful of the time when the timer goes off so everyone has an equal opportunity to participate. Candidates are seated in alphabetical order. Introductions, questions, and closing remarks will alternate on which candidate answers first. So I've kind of gone through that already with all of the candidates, but unless anybody has questions that have come up, then we will begin down on the end here with Jeffrey for opening statements.
Thank you. Everyone wants to be fiscally responsible. Would anyone campaign on being fiscally irresponsible? Absolutely not. But what does it mean to be fiscally responsible? It means adequately funding the school so each and every student receives the quality education they deserve, while also ensuring that teachers have the resources they need to provide that education. Yet it also means doing this while being sensitive to the tax burden we are imposing on residents, and not only residents with students, but those without. I believe the school district should wield its taxing authority with empathy, not entitlement. Hello, I'm Jeffrey DeBartolomeo. I have a master's degree in economics, a PhD in finance, and I'm a finance professor at the University of Southern Maine. I'm a tech nerd and serve as the audio-visual guy at my church, where I run the live YouTube stream every Sunday. You can also find me on dry days biking the trails at Blackstrap. I started my career in public accounting, where I began auditing school boards, believe it or not, and then I moved on to being a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley, before I discovered my love of teaching. So I've been teaching college since 2010, and I've been at USM since 2018. Being data-driven is a necessary cliche these days. Research is about 40% of my job, so I'm data-driven every single day. If elected, I will use my skill set as an educator and a researcher to make data-driven decisions in the best interest of the MSAD 51 community. I also understand that being a member of the school board of directors is a position of service, not one of power. If elected as a board member, I will be there to serve students. I have a child in the Greeley High School. I will be there to serve all the students, the teachers, and the taxpayers as a prudent steward of the community's tax dollars and one of our most valuable resources, our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Jesse.
I'm Jesse Lamar Vincent, and I'm running for a seat on MSAD 51 School Board. I've been a Cumberland resident since 2017 when my wife and I moved to Range Road with our infant daughter. We chose Cumberland for the mix of protected lands with trails, its reputation for great schools, and the unique rural character of the town. We've put down deep roots here. My daughter's now in second grade at Mabel I. Wilson, and my son, born here, will be starting kindergarten next year. I believe deeply in public service and contributing to the betterment of the community I live in. Since settling in Cumberland, I've spent 3 years working with the LCC's Sustainability Subcommittee, and more recently as chair of the Community Orchard Subcommittee. I've spent hundreds of hours of my time on these efforts. I also served in the Peace Corps in Namibia for 2 years, working with children and at-risk youth. My daughter has firsthand experience with the incredible teachers at Mabel I. Wilson. Huge thanks go out to Mrs. Ledoux, Mrs. Brown, and Miss Durfee for their care and attention. The leadership and staff at Mabel I. Wilson, from the bus drivers, custodial staff, art, gym, music, and guidance teachers, have all had a meaningful impact on my daughter's development. We have people who care deeply about the well-being of our children in this school district, and retaining that talent is one of my core concerns. I have a master's degree in public policy, and in my professional life, I work for a federal watchdog agency that audits other federal agencies. We write reports, we make recommendations about improving efficiency and bringing financial benefits where possible to the taxpayers. I spend my work hours understanding all aspects of the agency or program I'm auditing, interviewing agency officials, poring over policy documents, speaking with experts, reviewing best practices, analyzing data to inform those recommendations. I'll use those same skills to look for opportunities for improvement in our school district that can be identified by listening to a wide range of voices, asking probing questions, reviewing data, and engaging in detailed analysis. We're already a top-tier school district in the state of Maine, and I hope I can assist in keeping us right up there. I'm running for school board to ensure that our school district continues to have the resources it needs to bring out the best in our community's children. Thanks.
Thank you. Abraham.
Good evening, everybody. I welcome everybody here, and also I'm very passionate about education. And I also congratulate all my fellow contestants who have been here, who have stepped up to the plate to fill the vacancies of our school district. Why am I running for the school board? I'm very passionate about education, and I'm also love the children. I work with my Sunday school kids, and I have a real passion for us to move forward with whatever we have into giving my experience internationally and also my life experience. I want to share it with people so we can move our school district to the next improved level of what we already are. So if I'm given an opportunity, I would definitely be honored, and at the same time bring in a different color to the perspective of our school district if I can. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And Sean.
Hi, good evening, everybody, and thanks for coming out. My name's Sean Thurston. I grew up in this town, and many generations before me of my family have as well. There's been many changes throughout this town from when I was little to now. Some good, and some changes are a little unexpected, I would say, at times. And a lot of that is what's brought me here to this position and talking to you guys tonight, is that I've seen, my dad, when we put a playground in, we needed a new one, we had volunteers, and we did that. And I saw the new playground at Mabel I go up the other day, and I saw a construction crew out there. And I think we as a community need to come together more and fill that void where we see this 73% tax burden on our residents. And I think there's an opportunity as individuals to step up and fill some of that cost. And maybe some of our older residents wouldn't have to take such a burden. And some of my experience with that, when I was in the Coast Guard for about 10 years, I regularly worked with every port call we pulled into. I tried to get a volunteer crew together, and we also did a cleanup effort or something to help the community we pulled into. And I also worked with the younger Coast Guard members with their educational goals and developing their leadership skills. And I think those are really key things to town, and I think that we need to focus either on that community aspect and bringing it back into control within our means as a community, or we have to look a new direction. And I think we're kind of at a tipping point in this community, and I'd like to kind of be there to guide it through that transition. I think it's an important part in our town's history. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start with the questions now. Again, there's 5 prepared questions. I wrote them. The candidates have not seen them. So I'm going to start with Jesse. I will read the question the first time. I can reread them if any of you need me to. Please just let me know. So Jesse, if elected, what goals do you have for a successful 3 years?
Well, that's a great first question, thank you. So this hits at the heart of this election. So not only are we filling 2 school board seats, but we're also voting on the bond to build a new school. And so I think the future of my 3 years on school board, if I'm elected, will also be dictated on what happens on that second vote. It's my hope that the residents of Cumberland come out and we dig deep and realize that we need permanent infrastructure for our students, and that I'll get to spend 3 years digging into the details, looking at the contracting, making sure that we're building the most efficient and affordable and best value for money building that we can to bring our school into the future, right? Like, these are investments that shouldn't be made for the short term. These are investments that should be made for generations, right? I know a lot of people in the community are upset that we had buildings in the past that we gave up that we could really be using now, right? But that's not a reason to not invest in the future students of Cumberland, right? Like, my daughter is in a temporary classroom this year. She'll be in a temporary classroom next year. She might be in a temporary classroom in the middle school, right? So as a school board member, I would hope that I can make decisions that are fiscally responsible, that get the best value for money for the taxpayers, but also pave the way so that future students don't have to be in a suboptimal learning environment like my daughter is. And I also think it's really important that we attract the best teachers possible and retain the incredible teachers that we have. And if teachers come here and they see that the community isn't supporting them, that they're going to be teaching in temporary classrooms, I think that sends a message. And so it's my hope that I'll be digging into the details of this new school, making sure that we get every penny of value we deserve once it's being built in those 3 years.
Thank you. Abraham, do you want me to repeat the question?
I think I'm all set.
Okay.
Yeah. What would be my priority for the first 3 years? This question comes up in almost all school board meetings. It's a pretty much a typical question everybody wants to know. How is it more pertaining to our own environment in Cumberland? I went on the website, I Googled it. We have 10 big roads in Cumberland. That's it. 10 big roads. Our square mile area is only 4.6 square mile areas. That's it. The number of school districts we have is 126. Out of the 121, the towns have 7 mile square district. We fall under the square mile districts of 4.5. I'm not an accounting guy, but I'm a mathematical guy. So how do we perceive ourselves to have a school which is going to accommodate our needs in the future? And how do we move our students to the international level of changing environment in our day-to-day lives? How do we finance all of these things is a very, very important question. How do I play a part in this one? Yes, I do have a part in it because I live in this town. I've lived in this town for 14 years, and I'm considerably going to be living for the rest of my life here. How do I participate in making our kids move to the next level is all we should be thinking about, not in the short term, for a future, and which is a future which is way beyond us. Are we ready to create the legacy? And I will participate and move us into the next level if we can, if I'm given an opportunity.
Thank you. Sean?
Thank you. I think for me, the best thing we could see over the next 3 years is a school that would fill all our needs and our future needs. As Jesse alluded to, we've had 2 schools that have been shuttered and turned into 55-plus community housing and a community center. I do understand that both those schools at the time were probably not in the best of shape and took a lot of money to get back up and going in good shape. And it was a good choice at the time based on student enrollment and what the outcome looked like over the next few years. So I think we need to do a better job planning into the new school for opportunities of growth. I looked at the plans that were proposed so far, and I did like that there was a few areas within the school that they plan to put growth in there. And I think with that, like I was alluding to a little bit earlier, is that I feel like we need to come together as a community more and look at opportunities where we can all participate in helping that happen. A lot of the cost I feel like that we see is in our property taxes is due to the fact that I don't think as a community we come together and work on projects like I mentioned before, the playground, or be able to fill in that gap where we contract out now and be able to do that. I think that that would help some of the older members of our community that put a lot of money, be it, some people might even have a reverse mortgage on their home to help pay for their property taxes and their food to be able to stay in this town. Well, we have to balance that within this young family that just came in, and we want to be able to support them too with their growth and be able to, send their kids to a good school system. So over the next 3 years, I think the big thing is looking at how we manage that growth and look long-term and still maintain our values as a community.
Thank you. And Jeffrey?
So my priorities would basically revolve around 3 things. First, the budget. Second, school safety. And third, the school ranking. So everyone knows about the budget. It's not a secret. It's 70% of our property taxes. There was a 6.8% increase in the school expenditures just this year alone. That's not sustainable. You can't have a 7% increase in school expenditures year after year. But we all know that costs are increasing across the economy as a whole. So this isn't unique to just our school district. So if I'm elected, I would obviously work with school administration to understand the needs of the teachers and the students, and then work with my fellow board members to really allocate the taxpayers' dollars in the most effective way, whether that's be volunteer work or if we have contracted services, going out for RFPs more frequently, trying to find lower cost solutions to those contracted services. Now, when it comes to the school ranking, everyone knows that we have the top-rated high school in the state and one of the top-rated districts overall in the state. So how do we maintain that while trying to rein in the expenditure growth? And I think the main thing is, one, recruitment and retention. We have to recruit the best teachers, but we also have to give them ideal working space so we can retain them. And then when it relates to school safety, and I think I'm going to run out of time before I get to finish the story, but basically, I picked up my daughter the other day at school just by calling the office, and she was waiting outside for me. The school had no idea who I was. I could have been anyone from the internet. I didn't have to walk into the office and say hi to someone, show them my ID, and that's problematic to me. Anybody could have called the school and said, I'm here to pick up this person, and that person would have been waiting outside. That's a problem, that we don't know who's picking, that there's no safety protocol, or if there is, it's just not being followed.
Thank you. All right. So Abraham, this one will begin with you. The school budget accounts for over 70% of the tax rate in Cumberland and North Yarmouth. What do you perceive as the school board's responsibility to help with the property tax cost in both communities?
This question is a very, very important question as for the residents of the Cumberland. I never had anybody in the school system. Do I pay for the school system? Yes, I do pay for the school system. Will I continue to pay for the school system? Yes, I am been paying continually for the school system. At the same time, are we looking at this problem in a different way? How are we going to help our fellow residents? Because a school is part of the community. If it's a part of the community, we want to make sure that all the parts of the family is really nice and it's healthy at the same time. So to help the school budget, how we can reduce the school budget in a more constructive way, thinking about outside the box and also getting fundraising for things which we might think that is not necessary, because that way we can cut the cost and also make sure that wherever it's possible, we can contract with other people, collaborate with our fellow towns, and reduce the cost wherever that is possible, at the same time not compromising on the quality of the education. So if I were given a chance, I will always look for the collaboration and cut the cost wherever it's possible, and also make sure that we are also on par with the rest of the state and rest of the country, so our students have a better competing things for them to grow. The reason why I am in Cumberland is because most of these people who have lived in Cumberland have lived here for generations. Why do we live here? Because this is a great town to live. Let's continue to be like that.
Thank you. Sean?
Thank you. This is one of the main reasons why I wanted to run for school board, because I've seen it affect so many of our community members, be it the kids at school. I could see great strides we've come in as a community, and I can see older people and people that live here a very long time struggle with the property taxes that we have right now. I think we need to strike a good balance between those two, and I don't know if we've met that and helped and met the expectations of all the community members. So over the next 3 years, I'd like to see that we take better steps to plan for the future. And I think if we plan for the future properly, we can reduce our property taxes over time and reduce the school budget over time. And I think some of the key things with that are retention. I run a machine shop in a local town around here, and I can't tell you how much it costs to train a new person. Somebody that's been there for years, it makes a huge difference. They know the ins and outs. You don't have to train them on new software or expectations. There's just so many knowns. And I think if we can do the best we can to keep these teachers in the school, we can save a lot of money in the long term there. But at the same time, we have known we needed a school a long time. And I don't think as a community we've stepped up and even either had a fundraiser sign or had something of that nature to understand that we know we're going to have a big expense coming up. It's a requirement. And I think if we had taken some time and thought about that in more depth, I think we could have come up with solutions for some of the funding beforehand to help build the new school. So that's a big thing, and I think a lot of those small steps that a community does changes a lot of things in a good way. I could go on this for a while, and I'm noticing my time's running up, so thank you.
Thank you.
Well, as I said in my opening statement, the school district has taxing authority. And so it's in their interest and in the community's interest for them to really understand that when they develop a budget, and it's not just numbers, it's actual dollars to the residents of this town, and the residents of both towns, and so they need to be mindful of the budget they develop. Now I realize that, as I said earlier, we have inflation in this country, and it's higher than we want, and so costs are just increasing. And that's something that we can't control. So the way I would approach this is I would say, why aren't we running the school like a business rather than a government entity, right? The students are our product, and we produce students, and we have a top school district, so we want to fund that so we can maintain the school district status. But it's not just about cutting the budget, it's also about controlling the growth and the costs and the overall growth of the district, because so if we build this new school, we're also going to increase the district's overall costs. And so we seem to be mindful of that as a board. And so, you know, one thing that I would really promote and advocate for if I become elected is we need to really do a line-by-line analysis and ask ourselves, is there a way to save, is this expenditure necessary, and is there a way to save money on this expenditure? That's just something that every business should do, or every entity should do. Thank you.
Thank you. Jesse?
So this question came up in 2022, so I've thought about it a lot. And I think there's a hard truth we need to come to terms with. I believe that past school boards and the current school board have been doing their duty to bring value to the taxpayers in the school district. I don't think there are huge tax savings. I don't think we're leaving millions of dollars on the table. I don't think there's millions of dollars to be saved by rebidding contracts, and I'm happy to look at all those things, and I absolutely will, because I'm a nerd and an analyst, and so maybe there is, but property taxes are a fact of life, and if we're going to pay property taxes, paying property taxes to educate our children, I think, is the best value for money we can get. We have an incredible school district. We have an incredible administration that I believe is doing an excellent job. As a school board member, will I oversee them, give them advice and counsel where I can, make sure that nothing sounds fishy and ask questions if it is? Absolutely. But I think the reality is that costs are going up. I think I'll ensure that, you know, our budgets are in line with neighboring school districts. If ours are going up much higher than neighboring school districts, then something's wrong and we need to look at that. But if costs are going up everywhere, if insurance costs are going up and we have to have health insurance for our employees, if indemnity insurance is going up, you have to pay these things. And, you know, I don't want to say that I have a magic answer that's going to save taxpayers a ton of money, because I don't. You know, I'll look towards long-term planning so that hopefully we don't have huge costs in the future, that we're thinking mindfully about the future. You know, I think the turf field's a great example of that, looking to make an investment that'll pay off in the long term. But again, I think our school board has been doing a great job, and I hope to continue to do the same job they've been doing and bring value for money when and where I can.
Thank you. Okay. Sean, starting with you on this one. On June 11th, voters will vote on a referendum for construction of a new pre-K to 1 building, a maintenance building, and an addition to Mabel I. Wilson School. This project will also include a new turf athletic field, traffic improvements, and improvements and reconfiguration within MIW. Please share your views on this project.
The amount of information that I think we've gotten so far has been welcomed. I think it's a much better opportunity for school development than the idea originally that was in North Yarmouth. I think it concentrates all our resources in one area, which is a good thing, reduces the busing costs, and I think that that's the right thing to do. I didn't see a lot of growth opportunity like I was talking about, but I did see a little bit there that made me appreciative. I think that there's been some mixed feelings about the turf field and its integration within the school as one vote. I think we're going to have I'm not sure what the response is going to be there and if we're going to get the school approved because of it. I think that both are very important for a school. I think that we need to look forward, and I think this is the best option we have for our community. I think the growth that we potentially could see in the future might outgrow even that, and that would be a fear of mine with this plan ahead. But with that being said, I also look forward to, if I get elected, to digging through all the details for the school and going line by line and finding areas where we can make it better while at the same time keeping within budget. Because as we all know, when a new project comes out, it rarely stays in budget. So it would be a great opportunity and something that I do on a regular basis, managing large projects for research and development and other things within the business that I work at. and I look forward to potentially, making those big decisions and shaping this town's future in the school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeffrey?
Thank you. So, when it comes to the new school, I have several issues with the new proposal, and they may or may not be popular. One is, a year and a half ago, the voters were presented with a $70 million proposal, and they voted it down. And now we are presented with a $53.5 million proposal that includes a turf field. So so this goes back to my original point of being empathetic to taxpayers. If we could have proposed a $50 million school, because the turf field is $3 million of that. So if we could have proposed a $50 million school to begin with, then why not propose a $50 million school to begin with and go to voters and expect them to approve a $70 million school? So right there, it's just showing a lack of empathy for the overall tax burden we're asking voters or taxpayers to pay for. So that's actually, my most fundamental issue with the proposal. Now, no one wants to see children perpetually in portable schools, in portable classrooms, and I think we all can agree with that. But there's the issue of growth, and some of you have probably seen my Facebook post where I basically dug pretty deep into the enrollment growth projections, and it seems like that the enrollment projections are overly optimistic, that they're projecting more growth than we're experiencing. Housing housing construction has basically dried up in Cumberland, and in that report they use a few years of high growth to project their enrollment projections, or to form their enrollment projections, and they were overly optimistic, and they even state that in the report that their projections may overstate the influx of preschool-aged children. And sure enough, it looks like they probably are.
Thank you.
I'm in full support of this proposal. I had a lot of questions. I wasn't not on the school board now, so I didn't have all the details. So I went to the school board's website, where there are extensive frequently asked questions documents. There's hour-long video seminars on several aspects of the school project, including the turf field. I'm on the Lands and Conservation Commission's Sustainability Subcommittee, so you can imagine that a field that's made of plastic is not like first on my list of things I was excited about, right? So I watched the hour-and-a-half-long video where the athletic director, superintendent, the engineers talk about why it's a good idea, right? And I get it, like it's an additional cost. Do we need it? And by the end of that hour-and-a-half-long video, I was convinced that, yes, this is good value for money. A field that you can use 1,700 hours out of the year versus one that you can use for barely over 100 is good value for money, because this is a tight campus. We've already purchased one section of land. We're purchasing another small section of land if this proposal goes forward, just to fit the school in. So there's no other fields that can be built. And so the best value for money we can get is upgrading a field so that it can be used 10 times more than the one that's there now, that basically you can look at most of the time and play a few games on. And speaking to safety, I think the turf field's a good idea, because our students right now have to go all the way down the road to practice. Some are having to travel to Portland late at night to get on a turf field. And those are externalities in economic speak, right? Like, those are costs that families are having to bear. Those are kids that are piling into cars that are maybe unsafe. That's kids driving at night that might get into an accident and get hurt and injured or die, right? And is that worth a turf field so that we can have our students concentrate on campus more often for more hours? I think it is. I think that's good value for money, and I think that the school district thought that through, and I applaud their efforts in putting it forward and looking at a holistic plan rather than a short-sighted single project.
Thank you. Abraham?
The schools, what is being proposed is what I have a little bit of concerns, and also I have considerations about how the school system probably should be addressing it in a different way. Are we looking at a different perspective, like how far are we, is the school is going to be enough for our growth? If we are planning to reduce our taxes, we need more housing. If we need more housing, more kids are going to come into the school system. Is our school system is going to be enough in 10 years from now to accommodate our growth? If we don't have growth, we don't have money to pay for the expenses. If we have expenses, then we have to look at it in a different way, how we are going to pay for the expenses. Is the school system is going to be a school system which I am perceiving to have like another 1,000 kids into the school system, probably in 10 years from now, then how am I going to perceive it? Are we looking at lands right now where we can accommodate our schools and put all these newer kids into a different school system, and how we are going to pay for it? The taxes has to be reduced. If we don't have the taxes reduced, a lot of people are not going to live here, so we are going to have residents who are going to leave the town. So we have to retain the residents to pay for the taxes. If we have to pay for the school system, we have to retain our teachers. So all of these are falling into a place. So if I were to think in a different terms, I would be thinking in a long-term perspective, making sure that all the people in the community are happy by addressing all issues at the same time, not pertaining to one part of the issue. The issue has to be addressed in a different ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we're back down on the end, starting with you, Jeffrey. MSAD 51 often receives accolades for individual schools and as a top-rated district overall. What goals do you feel are important for continued academic achievement for all students?
So we can't have a top-performing district unless we have top-performing teachers. So in that regard, I would say it's very important that we provide teachers with the tools and resources that they need to provide that top-quality education that Cumberland has come to be known for. And so I'm talking about things like professional development opportunities for the teachers, improved working spaces for the teachers. That's one complaint that I've heard, that in some of the schools, they don't have comfortable or adequate working spaces, and that's something that teachers need. I'm an educator myself, and I know that you need a comfortable place where you can just go and do your course prep or your grading, and we need to make sure that our teachers have those things as well. But we also need to make sure that we are funding our staff so we can maintain reasonable class sizes. We don't want to let our classes get too large, because then the quality can go down. So we want to make sure that we are funding this school so we have enough faculty and staff to maintain reasonable class sizes. And then, of course, recruitment and retention. We want to recruit the best teachers here to our top-rated district, but we also want to give them the working conditions and the tools necessary so we can retain them as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Jesse?
Can you repeat the question for me?
Of course. MSAD 51 often receives accolades for individual schools and as a top-rated district overall. What goals do you feel are important for continued academic achievement for all students?
So I know the accolades thing is a touchy subject. I moved here because Cumberland has a reputation for having a great school district, and I hope that we continue to have a great school district. I guess my goals would be that we meet each student where they are. So one of the reasons that people come to MSAD 51 is because we have incredible teachers and we have incredible services for all students, high-achieving students and students that need extra help, right? So I don't want to be chasing goals like more AP classes or more kids going to Princeton. I want to make sure that we're empowering teachers to teach every student, no matter where they are, no matter their ability. One of the things I think we could improve on, and a goal of mine, and I think part of this would be met with the new school, is increasing access to pre-K. Right now we have half-day pre-K for a select number of children, and that puts the burden on families to go out and find daycare or pre-K opportunities. And some families can afford top-notch Montessori schools, My son is in a Montessori school, and I pay many tens of thousands of dollars for that because I know that pre-K is one of the best values for money in terms of education, and yet we don't provide it universally full-day pre-K in Cumberland. But it's expensive. So seeing that expanded would be a goal of mine if we can get state money to do that. If we can expand it especially to the most needy students in our district, I hope that that's something we'll be able to do so that they go into kindergarten ready to learn and ready to integrate with classrooms at a higher level. But besides that, I want to support our incredible teachers to keep doing what they're doing. I don't think there's anything that needs to be fixed. I don't have goals to change anything because Cumberland already has a working school system, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I hope to continue to support our administration and our teachers to do the great work they do, but a new school would help them to do that.
Thank you. Abraham.
Can I have the question?
Of course you can. MSAD 51 often receives accolades for individual schools and as a top-rated district overall. What goals do you feel are important for continued academic achievement for all students?
Any town, when we are moving into a new town, the first question any new family asks is like, is the school system good? If the school system is good, the family is going to move in. Are we going to get revenue because of that? Yes. And if they move in, then we need to spend for the school system. So it's a catch-22 problem. So how do we solve this? So we have an education system where we need to improve upon the new challenges of the world is coming on our kids. And then we have an older population who have lived in this place for a longer period of time who want the taxes to be reduced. Reduce the taxes and build bigger schools, or reduce our education system. So we need to address, like I said earlier in the conversation, when I had my question, same thing. We have to address it in different perspective about how each individual is affected in the community. So we come to a conclusion about building a school which will last forever. We cannot say that, okay, I'm going to build a big school because I have the money to do it. I can't say that I need a turf field. No, I don't need a turf field. Maybe I need a bigger playground for the kids. So are we looking at a property which is high beyond our growth rate of now, where children can go out and play? A turf field may not be necessary. Do they have the place? I come from a place where school systems don't have a playground. That's where I grew up. They will have a big school system, 10,000 kids, no place to play. Do we want to put ourselves into that situation? No. Let's think in a very different perspective. That's where I come in. For me, a perspective is a way how we address the issue in a different way. Not the same way we have been addressing our issues. It's not solving our problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean.
I might as well read the question.
Might as
again.
well. MSAD 51 often receives accolades for individual schools and as a top-rated district overall. What goals do you feel are important for continued academic achievement for all students?
I think the key goals in my mind are teacher retention. A teacher that knows our system and knows the curriculum is going to teach better, and they're going to be less worried and less nervous about their first day if it's old hat. Having a good environment for our kids, and I think that's, as much as I don't want to spend the money on a new school, we kind of need to do it. We've been having white buildings out there for a long time now, and my daughter's been one for 2 years now. Another goal is parent involvement. Parent involvement in child education is huge, and I think we do a pretty good job in the community overall in parent involvement, but it only can get better. And I think the parents' involvement is paramount. And I think coming from Mabel I and getting teacher updates on Fridays and asking, what should you talk about with your student? You should talk about these 3 things and bring up information. And, and it always brings up a discussion further with my daughter, like, you did this week. And then she asks more questions and we kind of get into the topic a little bit more. And I think that parent involvement is huge with our school system, and I'd love to see more of that. So I think, as Jesse said, we're doing a really good job right now. I don't think I'd want to change much when it comes to what we're doing. I think we need to do more of it and get better at it. And as a parent, I've just been really impressed so far. So I think overall, I think we just need to keep doing what we're doing.
Thank you. Okay. Last one. I'm going to start with you, Jesse. Describe how you can effectively communicate with all stakeholders regarding important and sometimes complex school matters.
All right. I think I have a unique, maybe not unique, I think I have the ability to listen to a diverse range of voices. I've put myself in positions in life where I've been in very uncomfortable places where it's hard to communicate. I spent 2 years in Namibia where they speak the Oshiwambo language that about 100,000 people speak, in the middle of a village where I was the only white person, working with kids and teens and families. Well, not that many families. Most of the parents died of AIDS, which is why I was there. And I learned to communicate even with my broken Oshiwambo, right? I worked for a summer at a psych hospital, right, where people were actively psychotic. And the way you speak with them is by speaking directly to them and not seeing them as a sick and broken person, but listening to what they're saying and trying to speak through, whatever's going on, right? Just treating them as the person they are and not the illness, right? So if I can speak to people in another continent, in another language, if I can speak to people who are actively psychotic, I think I can speak to any of the reasonable, intelligent, caring, and passionate residents of Cumberland. And I get that people come from very different places in this town. There are people that are struggling to pay their property taxes, are having trouble paying their bills, and I know what that's like. I mean, I grew up going to Sunday potluck dinners with my parents because they didn't have enough money to get by sometimes, right? And I'm fortunate to not be in that position. But we have a caring and empathetic community, and so, I think as a community, instead of trying to fight each other on issues, we need to come together a little bit more and care for each other a little more and try and find solutions to both educate our kids and help people who are struggling in their homes. And I think just being honest and caring and empathetic and willing to hear people out is the way to do that.
Thank you. Abraham, do you want me to? Of course. Describe how you can effectively communicate with all stakeholders regarding important and sometimes complex school matters.
I'm a listener. I love to listen. I love to hear people, what they say. When I went for campaigning now, door-to-door knocking, a lot of people have said, are you out of your mind? Do you really want to stand in Cumberland? Are you out of your mind? Do you know who you are? That's the question I was asked. How I came to Cumberland, that's a big question. It's a lucky poker from Titanic. I bought this house in an auction. I didn't have any money in my pocket. How did I make it to America? It's a story by itself. Every part of my life is a story. Why am I running for the school board? That's a story by itself. I came to register a car. There I see the board. I decided to run. Do I want to do this for my community? Yes. Am I paying taxes high enough than most people here do? Yes. Will I pay for it? Yes. Will I support the people who are finding it difficult to pay the taxes? Yes. Will I ask for a new school system? Yes. Will I ask to cut the budget? Yes. Will I not stand for turf field? Yes. Will I ask for a bigger playground? Yes. If I am going to say yes for everything, I have a humpty number of no's. Can I be a part of the community? We are all going to be a part of the community. How each individual plays makes us the greatest community to live. I'm going to live forever. As a matter of fact, I even bought a property for a cemetery here, so I'm going to be buried here. So when people go around here looking at me, when I see young children playing, and say, I'm going to be happier. So this is my town. This is where I live. I want to improve this town, and I want to make sure that Everything in this town is going to be as it is. It's a small town, but it's big in my heart.
Thank you. Sean?
Yes. I think my experience in the Coast Guard would definitely help me with this topic specifically. I would agree that listening is the first step to bringing up topics like that and understanding everybody's perspective. When you're in the middle of the ocean and you're on a boat that nobody wants you to be on because you're enforcing a law that they may or may not agree with, you have to get creative with how you discuss things and make sure that you are keeping yourself safe, everybody else on the boat safe, and still getting your point across and make sure everybody's following the rules and regulations. With that, you learn a certain skill set that you make everybody feel good about what's happening, but at the same time enforce and inform what needs to be informed. And I think, I don't think we'll have any issues to that extent, and I think overall it's bringing both sides of this together. And usually when that happens, nobody really feels great about it, but at the end they know that we made a good decision. So that is the most important part with conveying information that we may or may not want to hear. So I think there's, it's going to be important over the next 3 years as we build the school, because I think there's going to be people that aren't going to want to hear what we're going to have to spend to make that happen. And I think that we'll do a good job communicating that.
Thank you. And Jeffrey?
So, as an educator, I've said this several times tonight, I teach finance. It can be very complex. I teach undergrad courses all the way up to master's level courses. And I teach to a variety of students. Finance is a very quantitative field. You have to love math. You have to be very good at math. Some students sit in my classes and they hate math and they come in my office and they're crying. And other students are very strong at math. So I have to be able to teach to the entire classroom. So not only do I have to constantly listen to what my students are asking me, and I have to read the room and tell when they're confused and I see a room full of deer in headlights, but I have to be able to rephrase what I'm saying in a way that is that's understandable to all the students. And like I said, I've had students that come into my office crying and they say, I'm horrible with math. But so when they do that, I don't say, okay, well then drop the class. I sit there and I work with them to listen to their weaknesses or what they think are their weaknesses, and to help them devise a plan to succeed. And so that's how I view basically engaging with any stakeholder is you have to understand where they're coming from, and not see that as an opportunity for failure, but you have to see it as an opportunity for success. And so whether we're talking about the new school project or just the annual budget, it's really just about understanding where taxpayers are coming from, where the school district as a whole is coming from, and understanding everyone's needs, and meeting in the middle somewhere, hopefully, and to devise a proper plan. So that's basically all I have for that question. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so those are all of our questions. Now candidates will each have 2 minutes to kind of give their final remarks. This time we're going to start with you, Abraham.
I didn't expect that to be my first first one on this one. Like I said earlier in the things, we need to look at, in a different way, our issues. Our issues in the modern world has changed into different complex issues which could be solved in a very easier way. It's always like, how do we retain our residents? People here, all of us are in the same agreement. We have to retain our teachers. We need better amenities. How do we pay for this? We have to pay for all of these things in a different perspectives, wherever we can collaborate, wherever we can get the finances, wherever we can do the fundraising, and wherever we need to increase our education. Are we looking at in a long-term perspective? A long-term perspective is a school which stands forever. And if you go to the library, behind that library is our historical society, a building which was built in the 1800s and 1700s. Has it withstand time? It's going to be standing after I'm dead. Are we building a system which is going to be lasting for us forever? Are we building a legacy for ourselves? Are we building a history for ourselves? Are we building our society which is going to be able to go through all the changes of the modern life? Is that what we should be looking at? I am passionate about education. I'm passionate about our love, our children, and how they have to grow to meet the needs of the modern world. Our resources are finite. Like I said, we are 5 square mile town. We don't have enough resources. We can't keep on building bigger buildings and bigger school system. We need playgrounds. We need farms. We need places to walk. We need everything to be part of our community. Only then it'll be a bigger community. So I would be really appreciative of you if you give me a chance to prove that I'm different and I can solve the problems very differently from most of the people I can ever imagine for. And I'm up for it, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you. Sean?
When I first thought about joining and becoming part of the school board and running, I was thinking about the past a little bit. My family donated land for the school that used to stand on Bruce Hill Road. It's a yellow house now. And we donated land to help increase the size of the Cumberland Fairgrounds. I remember collecting money for parking across from the Cumberland Fairgrounds. And we have a long history in this town. And I thought that we needed a little bit of that perspective on the school board because there's a lot of big decisions coming up that are going to change this town. And this town has changed a lot since I was little. It's going to change even more in the next 20, 40 years. And I want to be part of that change and see the growth and while also maintaining some of those core values that I was taught growing up from my parents and my grandparents and my great-grandparents and some of those stories that built communities. Like I said before, my dad helped build the playground. I think all these things are what makes Cumberland, Cumberland. And I would like to impart more of those ideas as the town changes and more people move in. Some of those long-term ideas need to be held and passed on in the community. And we need some of that on the school board. So that was the main reason why I want to be there. And I want to see those passed on. So thank you.
Thank you. Jeffrey?
Okay. So I'm passionate about education. I'm so passionate about it, I decided to make a career out of it. And, you know, in addition to teaching college-level students and even adults that well into their 30s, I've taught second grade Sunday school. So it's not, you know, I certainly understand the importance firsthand that teachers need the support and resources to provide the high-quality education that students deserve. But I also understand that a dollar invested in our schools is a dollar invested in our future, but we must invest it wisely. So I've heard from voters over the past several weeks I've been campaigning that are frustrated with how the level of taxes that they pay doesn't always seem to come with accountability and transparency. And so that's one thing that I hope to change voters' perception of. If I get elected to the school board, I just hope to enhance the transparency to voters, so voters get the full information that to their questions. Because nothing's more frustrating than seeing your tax bill and then going to a board meeting and asking a question and leaving with your question unanswered or not getting a satisfactory answer to your question. So that's one thing that I just hope to bring to the board. So basically, a vote for me is a vote for accountability, transparency, and financial sensibility. So if elected, I will work with my fellow board members and administration to maximize the effectiveness of our tax dollars and financial planning while meeting the needs of teachers and students. So together, let's keep MSAD 51 a top-performing district and vote Jeffrey DeBartolomeo on June 11th. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jesse?
All right, thank you, Whitney, for moderating, and to all the dedicated residents that came out to make an informed choice, and everyone watching on YouTube. If your mind isn't made up after tonight's thoughtful questions, I'll be at the Cumberland Community Orchard this Sunday, May 19th from 1 to 4 p.m., tending to the trees and working to build up that community resource. I'll happily share with you anything you'd like to know. I would love some company, so it's not just me and the ticks in the field. We have the task of taking our already great school district and making sure we uphold our community's responsibility to the next generation of students, and that includes my 2 children. My daughter is in one of the 2 largest classes passing through the school system right now. She's currently spending 2nd grade in a portable classroom. She's going to spend 3rd grade in a portable classroom. And in middle school, if we don't get a new school built, she might be in a portable classroom again. I think we owe it to our students, both current and future, as well as our teachers, to give them a more settled and appropriate classroom environment to work with as our school district grows. I think the current school board's put together a thoughtful proposal to ease the crowding in the school system. I applaud their forward thinking. And for those that are skeptical, I would encourage you to watch the videos and read the documents they've put up on the website before complaining about anything. But if you do have more questions, absolutely ask them after you've been informed. If elected, I hope to spend the next 3 years ensuring that the investments we make in our school district are made with intention, thoughtfulness, and that they bring the best value for money that we can get as taxpayers while meeting the responsibility to our students. I will listen to community members' concerns and work to address them to the best of my ability. I will work with school administrators to ensure that the programs and policies at our schools continue to meet the needs of our students and our community. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So that wraps up our Meet the Candidates Forum for tonight. I just want to thank all 4 of you for your willingness to run. I'm also a resident of this town, so we really appreciate your efforts and sitting here with me tonight. For all the residents watching and in the room at the moment, ballots are available. You can get them from the town clerk's office. You can request them online. You can call Jen and the ladies out front. You can get them by coming in. And there's all kinds of information on the front of our website. So please don't forget to either get your absentee ballots or join us on Election Day when polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Thank you so much. Have a great night.